everybody, welcome to my channel, Rise with Dr. Priya. Today we're going to talk about friendship, specifically friendship now in a post-COVID world. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of pressure in the media and everywhere to be liked, to make friends, especially when it's been scientifically discovered that loneliness is a chronic health problem in America. So, who are these friends? How are they meaningful? And how can I make friends? What does friendship mean in my life? In this post-COVID world, there are a lot of changes to friendship. For example, we need to be able to nurture the relationships that are already there with a changed environment in schools, a changed environment at work, and in general, more of a stranger anxiety sensation culturally. We also need to be able to get rid of toxic relationships and not hold on to something just because it's a friendship and there's a lot of pressure to have friends. And then the third thing is to recognize what is a meaningful relationship and how that kind of a friendship can really contribute to your life and add value to your life. Today, that's what we're going to talk about. Thank you for joining me. And if you like this, keep watching and hit the subscribe button. I'd like to talk to you now about friendship, its definition and its purpose. I think in this society, friendship is a little bit undervalued in between work relationships and romantic and family relationships. If we had a better understanding of friendship, we may be able to incorporate it in more meaningful and productive ways in our lives. So friendship is essentially an enduring bond between people that involves vulnerability and it involves trust. Often our friendships aren't based around all of our strengths or all of our achievements, but when we share things about life that make us vulnerable or the tender parts of our lives, and we can share this with a person or people without fear of judgment or of being hurt. Friendship grows and it takes time to evolve and to go from being an acquaintance to a friend to a really good friend. And we'll talk about how that evolves. But now I'd like to bring up the purpose of friendship. And essentially there are four purposes. One is that we can network when we meet other people. We get more resources, we get different ideas, and it can help us to build on ourselves and enjoy life more. Another thing that we get from friendship is assurance. The human condition is scary. The human condition involves a lot of pain and suffering. And if we can share this with somebody, we get reassurance. And that is a wonderful experience that helps people feel better and thrive. So there's assurance. Another reason we can't overlook it is it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to let your guard down, to laugh, to make jokes, to be silly with somebody or people that you don't feel afraid of or that they'll judge you. So that capacity to have fun with people really reduces shame. And shame is just an icky thing involved in people's psychology. But when you have a good time with people, you really let go of it and you feel good. And the last reason, I mean, there are probably more, but the last reason I'll talk about today is clarification. We need friends to clarify our ideas. So human beings are social. We talk through our ideas or our dreams or our feelings. When we talk through something with a friend, we get a better understanding of what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and where we would like to go. So with a friend, somebody who's non-judgmental, and it's a very equal type of relationship, you can get a tremendous amount of clarification and understanding about you and your situation. Is about the development of friendship. There are two main neurochemicals involved in the brain circuitry involved in friendship. Those two neurotransmitters are dopamine, again, and oxytocin, again. They're also very involved in our love circuitry. What happens when you have a positive friend experience? you experience a huge uptick in dopamine concentrations in your brain. And dopamine is the molecule of more. It's like, we got to do this again. I want more of this. And the dopamine is coupled with oxytocin. Oxytocin is the warm, fuzzy, social bonding chemical. So you get this wonderful oxytocin feeling, and you get the dopamine reinforcement like, I want more of this. I would like to encourage people to notice this when they're with people. Where do you get that feel-good feeling? Where do you feel that just pleasure? That's probably a good friend. Other kinds of feelings involving guilt or anger or shame, you might want to just think about that or talk to somebody, a friend, and get some clarification, because maybe that interaction isn't friendly. So the other thing is, the way that we develop the ability to have friends starts at about 18 months in a toddler. This thing happens, it's called theory of mind. In that toddler, they're starting to think, if I do this, then mommy's going to smile. If I do this, then my nanny is going to pick up some food for me. Or if I do this, daddy is going to pick me up and swing me. Stuff like that. They start thinking about the other person. So when we start thinking that we can influence other people, we develop a capacity to have a relationship. It's called theory of mind. So this theory of mind develops in school, and it develops with our childhood friends. And then in adolescence, there's like a huge change in the brain, and there's a big drive, which is dopamine driven and reinforced, to make friends, and the friends become everything. So that time of adolescent friendship, early college friendship is very intense. It is a very bonding time, and that's supported by different chemicals in the brain, and that's supported socially so that it helps young people leave the nest and evolve. So I think that's really interesting, because some of our most intense friendships occur in that early adolescent, college time. And things change. People make friends in different environments for different reasons. Another thing that's very important to talk about regarding the neurobiology of friendship is that release of oxytocin. Oxytocin is also a painkiller. It is a natural pain reliever. So it's tremendously good for our body, our nervous system, to have that. It decreases inflammation, and it also decreases cortisol in the body. And over time, that will lead to longevity and a better quality of life, and ultimately better health. So it's really important to distinguish that good friend versus just the not so good feeling. And it's also important to honor different stages of friendship, their intensity, and that they will evolve and change over time. I'd also like to reinforce friendships decrease pain. Now, I'd like to talk about 6 forces that are involved in developing friendships and maintaining friendships. These forces were described by Julie Beck, who studied hundreds of friendships over years for her articles in the Atlantic Monthly. These 6 forces involve: 1, the accumulation of time. Did you know that it takes anywhere from 40 to 60 hours over 6 weeks to change somebody from the status of an acquaintance to a good friend? I thought that was interesting. Then there is this captured attention. Somebody catches your eye. For example, you like their concert t-shirt. You store that in your head. Oh, they like Jane's Addiction. So the next time that you see them, you may mention, and this is intention, with intention, that, hey, I saw that band play, and what do you think? Maybe we can talk about it. So there's that attention, someone catches your attention, and then there's that intention that I want to talk to them. All right, so you follow that up, and then you develop rituals like having coffee every Friday and listening to certain types of music together. So, or playing D&D. So then the ritual part reinforces the relationship. And then you don't just have ritual, but you have imagination. Friends can do amazing things together. They can start social movements. They can work with animals. They can create art. So there's imagination in what the friends do together. And then lastly, of course, we need some grace, because our friends may let us down. We may not get to do all the rituals, or at the beginning, our attention may not be equally met, and maybe the person just borrowed the t-shirt and they're not interested in the band anyway. But those 6 forces, when you go through them over and over again, kind of determine a friendship. That is the accumulation of time, attention, intention, ritual, imagination, and grace. Another important aspect of friendship is synchrony. Synchrony occurs when people spend some time together and they start developing similar traits and mannerisms. You may have heard that if you know somebody's friend, really good friend, you can have a good idea of who that person is. And it is because of this unconscious force of synchrony. You'll notice it especially in teenage peer groups. People will start dressing one way and shunning another one. It becomes really strong. And that synchrony can be a good thing. And the synchrony can be something that an individual doesn't want because they want to be their own person. So there are different levels of synchrony that a person will work with. And I think that's really interesting. Some people just throw themselves into the group and the group think, and some people hover back. Now I'd like to talk about safety in friendships and how to safely befriend someone. And this is boundary awareness. I think it's important to realize that there are costs involved in befriending someone. It takes time. Do you have the time to spend with someone who's interested in you? It's good to know at the beginning how much you can commit to this. Do you have the energy? Perhaps you have a lot of things going on at home or at work, and you don't have the energy to commit to a deep friendship at the time. That's okay. It's good to be aware of that. Also, it takes a certain amount of resources and income and money to keep going out and doing things with friends. And an awareness of that and an ability to discuss that is always helpful. And then lastly, one of the costs involved in friendship is conformity. And some people just don't want to give up their individuality, and that's okay. It's important to know that it's not necessary to go out and get a whole bunch of friends because it increases your lifespan, or you need to have friends to be a certain way in society. What is important is to understand what works for you. For example, some people are really synchronous people. They're highly synchronous. They go out for drinks and get along and tell the same jokes, and it works for them, and it's really easy to find friends and join a group and be synchronous. There are some people who are more asynchronous. They have their own ways that are more reserved or more set, and they do things slower. It takes more time for them to feel comfortable, to feel vulnerable, and to be with someone in a friendship way. And that's perfectly fine. It's very important to know yourself and not put yourself down for the type of style and the type of rate at which you feel comfortable making friends. We don't need a huge number of friends. We need a few that help us to feel good and to have fun. There are a few pearls that I learned while I was doing research on friendship. The one thing I think stands out is that take the time to befriend yourself, to be kind to yourself, to find out the things that interest you, the things that make you happy. If you know that about yourself, your chances of making friends and deeper, long-lasting friendships will be much better. It's also important to take time to let the friendship evolve. Oversharing is a boundary violation, and it's awkward, and it can kill a budding friendship, budding relationship. Be aware of what you're feeling when you're getting to know somebody. Are you overly anxious? Do you need to take a pause? These kinds of introspective moments can help you to titrate how much sharing and to keep the rhythm of the friendship going forward, keep the momentum moving. It's also important to be aware of power dynamics in friendships and in relationships. I mean, I think there's a good reason why you can't truly be friends with your boss or truly be friends with your teacher. For example, your boss is responsible for your livelihood, and you may not be able to be as candid as you would with someone who you weren't so dependent on. Same with a teacher. I mean, they're wonderful. They inspire us. They're incredible, but they're going to grade us. So be aware of these power dynamics. And even amongst equals, I want to put it out there that equality, the concept of everything being equal, isn't ideal. There will be moments when someone makes more money than you, or wins something that you don't, or gets the girl and you don't, and has a bigger piece of cake. It can get down to that. But our ability to be aware of that power dynamic, and if it makes us uncomfortable, we can talk about it and we can clear the air. And if there's general equality, it'll get sorted out. Another pearl is the people that we choose to spend time with often reflect who we are. So I think that's always interesting to observe in groups of people. Ultimately, it's not life or death to have friends. We do need social networks to grow and have our brain work. But deep friendship, good friendship, enhances the quality of life, helps us to have fun, and, decreases pain. These are good reasons to make friends, but not feel pressured just to collect people around you. There are forces behind friendship. There is science behind friendship, and there are things that we can do to increase friendship and harmony in that. So I hope this video has helped you with that, and I look forward to talking to you some more. Please hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. See you later.